Okay, so we're flying the plane. We're building it while we're flying it. We're trying to get to that 20,000 foot. What does that look like? The way that I define this one, I think one of the biggest indicators is that you're one step removed from the job, right? You've finally got the project manager that is the one that's responsible for the job. So you're one step removed from it finally. You've broken the barriers of that hub spoke where everything runs through you. And now you've got another hub that can actually manage the day-to-day jobs. And you still are managing that project manager. You're still probably involved in even bidding the jobs, maybe, making sure that materials are there for the job or something along those lines. But you don't have to actually be on the job site every single day, and you can start to work on the business a little bit more. I think that's one of the biggest indicators is you're one step removed from the job. What do you think?
Well, I think you're correct that you show up to work every day, but you're not necessarily working on operations. And I think a lot of people from 20,000 and below consider working to be the operations. We're bidding, selling, performing, ordering materials, coordinating people to do the job. And I like to always reiterate that operations is not your business. It's 1/4 of your business. You have to do everything else, all the administrative stuff, the leadership stuff, planning stuff, the goal-oriented stuff, maintain the culture, hire and fire, incentivize people. And in the marketing, you have to hopefully direct somebody rather than you doing it. There are unicorns out there, as you like to call people, who really love marketing and do it instinctively. They're doing it at 10 o'clock at night because they want to. Right. I don't include myself among that. And that's, couldn't imagine anything worse. But there are people, so you get people to do that. But somebody has to pay attention to those other three areas. And so you move yourself gradually from primary responsibility for production. So you got somebody else doing it, and you can start paying attention to the other areas of business that are critical.
Yeah. Yeah, I think essentially when you get to this level, you finally have another key person. You're not the only key man. You're still a key man, but you have another one with you that can help with the project side. Typically, it can be with other areas, but that's just typically where it starts. You've got a project manager that can help you basically duplicate your efforts, and you're growing. Maybe you have multiple key men, but you're still a key person in the day-to-day operations. I liked what you said about hats. And I think this is a good transition point for us to talk about that, where instead of like a role or a task or a project or whatever, there's hats in your business. And when you're at the 20,000 foot level, you have delegated, you do have a team in place. You've even got some systems in place. Things are running without you to some degree, but you're still wearing every single hat. At the end of the day, you're still responsible for basically everything. How did you describe it?
Well, that's partly somebody, all four areas of business, the guiding, getting, doing, administration. Somebody has to deal with all of that. Otherwise, you're going to go out of business. You're going to run out of cash, or you're going to get sued for firing somebody the wrong way, or insurance is going to lap, or you're not going to get any. I mean, somebody has to deal with all that. And up to this point in most businesses, up to this, coming to 20 to 30,000 feet, it's the owner who's in charge of it. I think our listeners will recognize that. They do it when they have time, when they're not doing what they do most, which is usually doing operations. Well, there's a couple of things about the owner doing it. And one is that they typically won't have time, at least not to do all the things and not to do them well. And two, they're not very good at them. Now, they may take offense at my comments, but looking back over 500 clients, I'm trying to think how many I ran into that were natively good at keeping books, and not very damn many, right? There are some, there are some, but not many. And of course, we've talked enough about books to understand why they're important and to your success. So when you're wearing all the hats, things are not getting done very well. That's just a general statement, but I'm unabashed in making it. They're just, everything is just not being done well. And this might be moving us to the next level, but typically, I'll just throw out some numbers between 5 million in sales and 10 million in sales, closer to 10 million in sales. Companies start to be much better run much better. That's a more easy way to say that. And I think the main reason for that is that the owner has hired hats. They got a CFO, they got an HR person. I think I said this earlier. They got an IT person, maybe if that's the size of your company. Got an insurance specialist. You've got a marketing and sales director and marketing director could be hired, but you have specialists that do those, and it's no longer up to the owner. And things get quantitatively better because you start to get that better data that you were talking about earlier with which to make decisions. You start having the time to look at that data, understand what it's telling you and how it's helping direct you, as opposed to showing up on the job and getting the pickup stuck in the mud, spending your day out there.
Yeah. I think with, we're talking about this 40,000 foot level. The nice thing about being at 40,000 feet is that you can see further, right? And I think at this ground level, the 10,000 foot, even the 20,000 foot, you're really narrowed in how far you can see and how long you plan and what you even think about. And obviously on the ground level, you're thinking more day to day. And the 10,000 foot level, you might be thinking week to week. But even at the 20,000 foot level, I think you're still in the short-term thinking of less than a year. And that really limits you because you have so many different hats that you're wearing. Your capacity is limited to how far you can think into the future because you've got to maintain and manage what's in front of you. And so I think that's a big characteristic, that you're still not thinking really long-term. Sure, you maybe have some thoughts, but you're not being detailed and strategic and calculated in how you think about the future. It's more of a concept, right? So that's another thing that I want to mention. You mentioned, let's go back to the hats. It's really not until you get to that 30,000 foot level that you've actually delegated some of the hats, not just the work, but you've got people that can be responsible for those areas, right?
Yeah. I mean, you might have one that you picked up early, a project manager or something like that, or but typically, no, you haven't hired them yet. And part of the reason is you don't think you're making enough money to do it. You have to, it's a chicken and the egg thing all the time. At some point you have to delegate things to people.
Yeah.
Well, they're not ready. Well, how are they going to get ready? I mean, you will have spent time developing systems and things like that, but you've got to hand a difficult decision off to a trusted ally and let them make that decision, get comfortable making and making such decisions. Certainly screw some of them up, but you have to be willing to hand that off. I don't remember what book just recently read, and I've read it before, that if you've got somebody in your outfit that can do what you do 70% as well, give it to them.
Yeah.
70% of their time or 70% as well frees up 100% of your time. You're way better off.
Yeah.